All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Course Creator Community Podcast. I am super excited because we've got an awesome guest on the line this week, fellow Australian like myself. He's on the wrong side of Australia, the side that's not as good, but still Australia. So we'll give him some points for that. And he's going to be speaking about a very interesting topic today that I've never spoken to anyone about. I've never heard. We've never had it on this podcast. And it's all about how kids can start and run a business. A little bit about this person. He's a serial entrepreneur. He runs 3 thriving businesses. I'm sure he'll tell us about them throughout the podcast. But the one in specific we're going to talk about today is youth in business. In this business, he teaches young people the skills they've never been taught at school, how to start and run successful businesses and not end up in the rat race. He's had kids making 6 and I believe even 7 figures. And I think he's got an interesting story where a student came up to him and told him that they made more than the principal. So I wish this guy was around when I was at school. So without further ado, let me introduce the one and only Ben Jones. Ben, how are you?
Good. Thanks, Johnny. Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here and help your listeners in any way that I can. I appreciate everyone's time and attention. Hopefully I can deliver some value to everyone who's listening today.
Awesome. Now we'll get into the kids and youth topic in a minute. Just before we do, I believe you run 3 businesses. Do you want to let us know a little bit about them?
Yeah, sure. So we run, obviously, youth in business. We help kids run businesses. That's we were doing just prior to COVID big events, most capitals of Australia. So sort of events with rooms about 700-800 people. We did a launch.
Woo!
Yeah, there was
Kids
massive.
or adults or both?
Families, so all families
Yeah.
come along. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then we did a launch into the UK as well. So we did in 3 or 4 events in London, one up in Manchester, and then COVID's kind of hit. And then we've sort of just been doing it online since then. But yeah, fantastic. Absolutely love youth in business. We've been doing it for about, I don't know, 7 years or something at the moment. So really, really fun. The other businesses I have is I actually help, like adult businesses, obviously, in YouTube advertising. So we have a YouTube advertising education and training consultancy and agency as well. So we run, again, events and also training on how to help businesses grow and scale with YouTube ads. And they're probably my core 2. I have another one called Complete Prospecting. One of my hobbies, actually due to COVID, was to go out and I figured out how to get a gold detector and dig up gold out of the ground. And that was, I like fishing. So it was like, here's how we can go fishing for money. So that really worked for me. And so we're doing that, and we have like a hire side and an education side, and we just started buying up mining leases and stuff in that space as well. So yeah, really fun. So I sort of work between the 3 of them. I know they're not super related or anything, but they just go with my interests and passions. And I love marketing and helping businesses grow, and kids and business is fantastic. And I'm a bit of a fan of gold, so that all goes with the gold side of things. So
Love it. Well, we might have to get you on another time and speak about YouTube ads. And yeah, it's interesting when you said gold prospecting. I thought you were talking about like lead prospecting, and I was like, oh yeah, some prospecting to go out and get leads, but gold even better. So
yeah.
that.
So we've got a fun YouTube channel called Complete Prospecting. We literally, so you just watch videos of me digging up gold. So if you're into that, that's pretty fun. Nothing to do with business, but just super fun.
Awesome. Well, let me know about the youth in business, Ben. Before we get into the actual like tips, how'd you get into it? Why'd you get into it? How did it start?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, my wife and I kind of got to a point where we were like, oh, we done well in a few different business ventures, and we were like, well, what do we do next? We sort of got to that point. And around the same time, my son Trent, who at the time, he's now 14, I think he was 7 then. So yeah, that works out, 7 years. And he was like, look, I want to, how do I get money? And I was like, well, that's probably a question most kids ask. But I didn't just want to give him money. I didn't like the idea of pocket money because I feel like it, trains kids to just receive without doing, and it's not how the universe works. I was like, well, how do we do this? And I grew up on a farm. So I was like, oh, well, what I did when I was growing up was grow vegetables and fruits and things and sell them. So I said to Trent, well, we've got some money from Nana for your birthday. Why don't we plant a herb garden out in the backyard, and we can package up your herbs, and you can go door to door and sell them. But the thing was with Trent, he was super shy. He was like one of those kids, if you spoke to him and you were an adult he didn't know, he'd like look at the ground, or as much as you'd coach him to be like, hey man, look people in the eye, speak like a person, he just couldn't do it. So I thought this would be fantastic. This is just going to push his comfort zone to the max. And And that's what we did. So he started up a little herb business, and then he had flyers, and we put people on subscription in our local area,
Oh
and
wow.
he was just killing it and doing really well. And we had other people saying, well, how do we do that with our kids? How do we do that? And then we said, oh, well, here's, because we were doing some other business consulting and things, and we just put like a few little package together of like, here you go, here's like a little thing to get started. And then it sort of snowballed from there. And next thing we know, we were on stage and rooms full of people, and yeah, it got pretty crazy. So but no, absolutely, that's how it started. And then from there, like all my kids, I have 4 kids now. The youngest is 4, she doesn't have a business, but all my kids have some sort of entrepreneurial thing, and if they want something, they know how to go and get it. So my son wanted a, like Trent, I think just prior to Christmas, wanted a brand new gaming laptop for a couple of grand. So he worked, did his he's selling at markets with another product at the moment. So he did that for a month and bought his laptop. My other son wanted a Nintendo Switch. So, he went out and sold some things, bought his Nintendo Switch. And Levi, my youngest, he wanted some Lego that was like $300. There's no way I was buying that. So he went out and, same thing, like went out, made some stuff, sold it, and, bought his Lego. So all my kids know, like, if they want something or need something, the trick is to create value, is sell it, and go from there. So for me, that was the things I wanted to teach my kids. And then from there, it's, snowballed into helping heaps of other people as well. So
Love it. Well, I want to get into these tips, and I mean, we'll see how we go during the episode. But I'm even thinking here, I'm like, this could be some good tips for adults as well. Like if you're an adult and you're listening to this, and you're like,
it's,
man, I'm struggling to make my first sale. How is this 7-year-old smoking me? Maybe go back to some of these basics. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Ben. Where do we start? Let's say we'll still talk about kids, but if you're an
yeah.
adult, still take some of these tips as well.
Oh, for sure. What's really fun is we've had a bunch of parents actually leave their jobs and work in their kids' business, which is really cool.
No.
Yeah, for real. So, a couple of examples, top of my head, Josh from Seagull Milk, or Kai from Cocoa Fidgets, or like there's a bunch of them, right? And they've been able to, their businesses have gone really well, and the parents like, hey, I'd rather be doing that, and off they go. So pretty crazy, which is kind of fun.
I'm excited. Let's dive in. What's tip number one?
So
Someone's got a kid.
how do we get started? Let's
Yeah.
let's go to how we get started. So look, we have basically pick a great idea. Like that's number one. So make sure you've got an idea that's going to work. And then like that's more of a long-term play. So we sort of have like short-term business like ideas and things, and long-term ones. So if you're picking a long-term idea you really want to stick with, make sure it's going to work. So pick a winning idea. That's number one. Two is sell it before you build it. Now, this
Mm.
is an amazing concept. I think everyone needs to learn. So basically
Especially,
imagine,
especially course creators. I was going to say that's a key if you're a course creator.
it
Yeah.
literally I've done multiple 7 figures with this concept, or
Wow.
other people will call it build the plane before you fly it, right? Like it's the same thing. Don't try and plan the better plan. Just get out there and make the better sale, right?
Yeah.
And so how we do that with kids is we say, right, you start with $20. Okay. So you got $20 and you have no rules. Within the first month, you need to turn that $20 into as much money as you can by either reinvesting it, selling products or services. And there's a bit of a system around it as well. But what's really cool is that the kids go out there and, sell like crazy and do a whole bunch of stuff and get some really cool results. And I think when we first started, I think, the kids were turning like $20 into like $300 or $400, which is amazing,
Mm.
right? Like if you just learned that one skill alone, there'd be no need for welfare ever
Yeah.
in the world, right?
Yeah.
So if you just down to your last $20, you knew how to go out there and sell some stuff, and you're able to turn it into a couple of $100 within a week or two, like that's going to solve a lot of problems in the world, right? But then what's really cool is we started giving out these awards for like, if you do $1,000 in a month, we called it our 1K club. And then all of a sudden, like most of the kids now who go out and do the $20 challenge or hit over $1,000, we've got,
Wow.
I don't even know. I've got the list up here, but it's a lot, of kids who've gone out and done that. So, and then basically they get some amazing results in that first month. And then we have like a leaderboard. So who gets the most? And what's really cool is that the person with the highest sales at the moment, I think it's over $5,000 of
Wow.
$20 in their first month. And they did it selling dog treats and popcorn, for goodness sakes, right?
Mhm.
So it wasn't difficult. So really cool. So what you can achieve in a very short amount of time if you just go out there and ask for the sale, right? So and then of course, usually the kids try 3 or 4 different things over that month. They pick one that they really like, or they've learned some really cool business lessons around, like, I like selling here, I don't like selling there, I like selling online, or whatever it might be. Like, it doesn't matter if you're selling online or off. Like with the sell it before you build it, we've had kids literally go get a Shopify account.
Mm,
Um, so one was called Forever Straws, that they went out there and literally sold stainless steel straws back when they were a thing, did well over $1,000 in their first month, like literally before they'd even bought the stock to send to anyone.
mm,
Another one was the Eco Twins. They did a similar thing, except they did like $3,000 in that space. So it's you don't, and this is all online. Like, they didn't have to go talk to anyone, right?
mm,
We've had other kids who will go down to the park and sell things, or set up a little market stall and sell a bunch of stuff. Like, it really, you don't think that you have to go out one to one selling. Like, think a little smarter. Like, one of the kids got all their stuff into like a news agency, and they were just bringing their stuff down there and they were selling it for them. Like, think a little creative on like how you can get your products out there to like a mass audience really, really quickly. And we got heaps and heaps of different case studies of kids just smashing it out of the park with the $20 challenge, which is really fun. So
awesome. Let's dive into a couple of these even just there. So the great idea, like, agree. That's where the money is, right? The idea. How do
yeah.
you kind of help with that? Like, if you've got, what, I don't know, 20 kids, 100 kids, if there's a listener who's got 1 kid or 2 kids, like, how do you kind of know it's a great idea? Are there guidelines? Do you search? Like, do you try and error? What kind of tips can you give the listeners there for their kids?
Yeah, so we have like a 10 point checklist, a whole bunch of stuff around it. But if I was to really like break it down, especially with kids, it has to work quickly. Okay, so if it's their first idea, or they're just
Mm,
getting started, get them to start with like some real basic things, okay? Because the idea they start with won't be the one that they kick out the park, right? So when they're first getting started, just pick things that they enjoy doing, like things they like doing, and get them to sell those. Maybe there's like 3 or 4 different things, whether it's online or offline or cooking or dogs or whatever their interests are. Like, try and align something along with them. I
What
like
are a couple of
transfers.
what are a couple examples there, Ben?
Yeah, so just let me go through his presentation. So for example, like the environment one, that was a big one. So did a couple of kids did really well there. We had another family, they really liked like getting outdoors and that sort of thing. And so they did like a curb painting one, with our painting numbers on curbs for people. And they did well into $1,000 on their first sort of 20 first sort of 30 days. Sven and Ari, who did the 5K, like, they're doing dog treats because they were really into dogs. And they parents had they were into like cooking and stuff, so they actually caramelized popcorn and things like that, right? So like, it really depends on, like, my other son Trent, like, he quite likes the online sites. He's got like a YouTube channel, and he's also got like he likes selling at markets, for example, because I made him do heaps of door to door, right?
Mm.
Because I think it's good for him. But like, doing markets where people just come to you and they can sell their products or services, or if they're into crafts, get them to sell crafts or whatever it might be, right? So
Let me get my head around a couple of these. So let's say, like, the dog treats. The kid wasn't buying dog treats from elsewhere and selling it for more. He or she was actually creating the dog treats at home and then
correct.
selling them online.
Yeah, yeah. So and we've had honestly, we've had every idea you could possibly think of, from succulents to making candles to like all this stuff. We've actually got like a list. We put together like 101 like great ideas you can get started with. And I'll send that through to you and your
That'll be
listeners if you
great.
want.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And just and
that
let
way
me
it just gives them a place to get started.
100%. Let me ask a couple ideas around this. Like, does the kid always need to have the skill set? Like, let's say a parent's listening to this, that's great, Ben, but my kid can't cook. My kid can't, do crafts and that sort of thing. My kid can't sing. Are there options if they don't have that skill set themselves?
Yeah, for sure. Look, you're not going to wake up with the skill set ready to get going. And one of the big things, the whole goal behind youth in business actually is for them to learn a skill set. And we call it the skill set of an entrepreneur. And they're not going to have it. Like, you're not going to wake up
Yeah.
and I have all the business skills to go out and learn. Like if you go ride a bike, you don't wake up one day and be like, oh, my kid has the skills to ride a bike, right? They just don't. They have to get on, turn the pedals and actually ride it. So this and I think entrepreneurship at a young age is a great way to do that. Like it's very low risk. They can get out, they can start a couple of things, find out what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, make some money, understand how money works, learn how to talk to people, learn how to sell. And the nice thing is that the wider community in terms of, just people love kids doing business. Like,
Mm,
they'll be like, oh wow, I think you're amazing, and the opportunities that they get, they literally have a golden ticket because people will give them opportunities they won't usually get. So,
yeah.
for example, getting in, to stores or like just other business owners who see them saying, oh, here's a good opportunity, help this and that. And like if I was knocking on doors at, 40 trying to sell my wares and I wouldn't be getting, oh wow, well done, right?
Mm,
So which is exactly what most of the kids get, right? So it's really is amazing. I mean, if you tie that, I know I'm sort of getting off a little off question, but with free press, so like the kids getting into the media and things
mm,
like that, like we've had all the kids in our program like on every kind of media in Australia. So from TV to every TV channel, right, news to newspapers to whatever, and that does amazing things for them. Drives heaps of traffic if they have a website. The kids making thousands of dollars in 24 hours just because they're on the news, right? So
mm.
it's just they just have that golden ticket because they're young and people want to help them. They don't. If I come back to your question, they don't really need the skill set. They need to get out there and just do it, right? And that's the whole sell it before you build it thing, right? Like, life rewards action. So yeah, they're not going to be great at it straight away, and that's okay, right? So
What about say like and not even so much the entrepreneur skill set, more kind of like I might have used the wrong word, like a talent, Like let's say me as a kid, I couldn't cook, I couldn't do crafts or whatever. Like, what would have been the potential business options that I could have done at that age?
yeah, I mean, look, it depends on what you're into. I mean, you don't have to be great at something, like, we've had kids clean bins and do lawn mowing and,
Mm,
like
yep,
any sort of service-based business. Service-based business are great because there's no
yep.
capital to get started. And what you focus them on, like if they don't have like an inherent talent that can be turned into a business, is we set the kids like short-term and long-term goals, right? So if we said to them, look, if you get out and sell this service or product or whatever it could be, and you knew at the end of the month you could get, Lego, Switch, computer, motorbike, whatever it might be, right? That's great because the kids have then put in the work, put in the effort, and then got the thing that they wanted to do. So they've got that internal reward. So, like, I'm sure as a kid, there was probably something that you really wanted to grab.
Oof.
Um,
Just
you
one
know,
thing, or yeah,
yeah.
heaps of things I want to grab.
So that's the motivator. So focus on that. And then if they don't have like an inherent skill, then you can be like, okay, well, what are some things we can sell and what sort of business ideas can we go through? I'd go through that list, pick off a
Mm,
couple of things and just get started. So
awesome, love it. Okay, let's speak about the sales and the marketing side of stuff. So let's say there's a kid and they've got this idea, whether it's a service, whether it's a talent, whatever it may be. How do they start selling it?
yeah, so literally just depending on what it is, right? Best thing to do is get out to people who already have your people before you, right? Or that can help you. So think about who you know, because who can I help me market this to just get started. Go out onto your parents' socials and just say, hey, look, we're my daughter or son has this business, is just getting started up. Is anyone interested in buying it or whatever? They'll make a bunch of sales right there
Mm,
without even going anywhere and doing anything, right?
yep.
Things like I love door knocking. I think everyone should have to go door knocking at a young age. I think that's
Yeah,
just
there we go.
absolutely fantastic.
Yep.
Um, because what it does is everyone's scared of selling.
Yep.
Most people don't like selling.
Yep.
But what's really nice is when you go door knocking and you're a kid and you're selling something, is that people are actually really nice to you. And
Yeah.
you learn that, I think they learn very quickly that the world is actually out there to help them instead
Yeah.
of, oh, what will they think? And, blah, 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 blah. So I think like I love door knocking. All of my
Question,
kids when they
question,
start,
question with
sorry.
this, Ben, in terms of like parent supervision and age and that, what's your kind of take there? Like, do you send a 7-year-old off down on their own, or does it depend where you
Nah,
live, or what are your kind of guidelines there?
Yeah, so like for example, you don't have to go straight to like doors. You could probably start with things like sporting events. So like my son was playing footy or whatever, the one that was chasing the Lego, and he basically just went down there with a bunch of different like snacks and things that he'd made for everyone at the footy,
Mm,
like his footy club, and then basically went around with a basket and said, "Oh, would you like some of this? I've got my own business and I'm selling these products, or whatever, right?" And yeah, made a couple of $100 in an hour or two, right? So like quite easy to do.
mm,
That's you can walk around sort of watching,
yep,
let them do the talking part, like don't talk for
yep,
them.
yep,
And that's kind of a safe environment. People
yep,
know who the kid is and they're wearing the jersey of the club. And, that's probably a great like way to get them started talking to people and whatever.
yep,
If they're going door knocking, when I've done it with my kids, I usually stand on the street
yep,
and let them knock on the door. So you can see if anything goes wrong.
yep,
And it's kind of cool because if they're younger, like I'm talking like under 10, right?
yep,
So when they come back and like, oh, how did you go? And you practice their pitch with them, and they said this and I said that, and like it's kind of a cool thing to do
mm,
with your kids. And then as they get a bit older, once they sort of get, I think it's like almost like a rite of passage. You'll find that they'll graduate into doing bigger things like
yeah,
market
gotcha.
stalls and stuff like that. And they're great because you can get a market for $20 or something, 50
Oh
bucks or
wow,
something like that. Go sell your wares and people will come to you instead of you
yeah,
doing the door knock, right? So in terms of like teaching kids to sell, those are probably three variants of how you could do it. Depending on your child, make the call for yourself. But I, like, yes, you can sell things online and have a whole advertising online business on how to do that. And and my kids do have that as well. But I wanted them to learn how to sell face to face first before
mm,
hiding behind a screen because I feel like a lot of kids today will do that, right? Like they'll message, but they'll text someone instead of calling them, or they
yep,
they won't necessarily talk to someone without sending them
mm,
a text message of some description on some app somewhere.
mm.
So I really wanted to break that down and get the kids actually like selling in person. So
100%. I think the other good key there as well on things like social media, it's easy to think the value is in the followers, where it's like, hey, I posted this thing and it got so much likes and it got so much followers or whatever. And it's like, great, but how much dollars did you get from it?
yeah,
And
yeah,
you can go along that game there. And don't get me wrong, there's massive value in having lots of followers and that kind of thing as well, if you know how to sell. But it's like if you're
exactly.
just going there and just posting and look how much followers, look at all this content, great. But how can you monetize that? If you go this way here, it's like, okay, now I know now I know how to make money. Cool. Now if I do get a following, I'll be able to monetize that following. So I love that there. In terms of social media, like say it sounds like you start the kids, generally speaking, more face to face kind of stuff. Is the goal to graduate online, or is that,
Yeah,
or
look, it
teach
depends on
that,
the
or
kids. Yeah, it
yeah,
depends on the kids. So like some like usually the older ones, so like the 14 through 17 to 18 year olds, like they go straight to social, right? Because
gotcha.
they already have the the
Got an
Insta following
account,
or the
yeah,
accounts and they're already ready to go. Or
yeah. They know how
they've
to
already
use
got
it.
the gaming platforms and they're wanting to make money on Twitch or whatever it is that they
Yep,
want to do,
yep,
right? So they're already like tech savvy, they're already there.
gotcha.
So they want to monetize their YouTube channel or whatever it might be, right? So
Mm,
they're sort of like straight into the online, and I'd kind of try and pull them back a little and say, yeah, that's great, definitely do all of that, that's fantastic, but you do need to learn how to sell. Go do some live markets
yeah,
or some door to door or something. Get a few reps so you can sell and you understand that the world's actually there to help you if you can deliver some value, right? So I think that's a cool thing, but usually like the under 10s in particular, a lot of parents don't want their kids on
yeah,
social at that point, and
yeah,
they don't really want them to have an online presence or to be known that they have a thing or whatever. So
yeah,
and again, it's going to depend on your parenting. And there's no right or wrong there
yeah,
either.
yeah.
It's just what works for you, right? So I think in that case, a lot of the parents, a lot of the kids are more face to face, like they're the face, they're going out, they're selling, they're doing things. I mean, even something as simple as like, you know, um, like the food, all the food stuff's great, all the market stuff's
Yeah.
great, but like even something as simple like I was just thinking of one of the girls that did it. That she was only like, I was just thinking of the really young ones. So I think she was only like 6 or 7 or something, and she ended up doing a dog sitting
Mm,
thing at her house. So like basically like a doggy daycare kind of deal, and people would bring their dogs and she'd look after them for a couple of days, and the money in that was insane. I was like,
Yeah.
huh, that's actually pretty, pretty, if you like pets and you're willing to have an extra dog or cat around or whatever, it's, a pretty easy way to do it. And then she had her own flyers and she was giving them to people, but didn't have to be on socials, didn't have to be, so it depends on what level the kids want to play at. And so, and a lot of the times, like, for example, my 8-year-old at the moment, he's got a bunch of money in the bank and, doesn't really want to do it, like has sort of bought all the things that he wants. So more money to him is like, doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh yeah, I can buy what I want to buy, but I don't, they get to a point where they sort of cap out once they've got the tablets and the things and the whatevers.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah. Whereas my 14-year-old now is like, they can see the value in it. He's like, yeah, okay, let's get some money in the bank so I can go do things with my friends and I can get this and that and whatever. So I think it's different levels for different kids, to be honest. So
100%. Well, I got a couple questions there, but I even like just those two, like the idea and the sell it before you buy. And I even like, because in the course creator world, that's kind of key. Sell it before you buy, because it's just the average course creator spends 12 months creating a course, and then no one buys it at the end of it.
so
So
so silly.
so it's kind of like you've just wasted 12. And look, there's learning experiences and whatnot. I get that, but you could have got those learning experiences just by selling first. Hey, I've got this course. Do you want it? Starts in a month. Do you want to buy it? Yes or no? If no one buys it, well, you don't create the thing, and then you move on to the next idea, right? But if you
Yeah.
spend 2 years creating it, it's you've just wasted all that time. And I even heard, I'll mention a guy. He's a controversial character. It's you obviously heard of Andrew Tate. You either love him or you hate him. He's one of those kind of guys. But even he was speaking about a similar kind of concept on social media, where he was like, one of his friends came up to him and was like, "Hey Andrew, can I borrow $100,000? My girlfriend's an influencer and we want to set up a jewelry store or whatever it is." And Andrew Tate's like, "Well, hey, why don't you just do this instead? She's already got an Instagram account. Take photos of the jewelry that you're going to sell, post it on there. If people buy it, okay, then go out and source it and then go and send it to them. If they don't, well, it's a flop and you spent $0. So I think it's like, no matter what you're doing, it's a good moral there, or a good message there. There's a couple questions I got here. I might ask them both. No, I'll ask one at a time. So let's say, because I think a lot of people listening to this are entrepreneurs themselves, and they want to hand that on to those kids. Oh, my kid's going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to be a good entrepreneur, this and that. Does it need to come down to I don't know if you can answer this question, but just in your experience, does it need to kind of come from the kid, or are there things that a parent should maybe be seeding? And then if the kid wants to go down that pathway, or what's your take there?
Yeah. So I think 100%. So there's a couple of a couple of facets to that. So one is, the kids don't want to be an entrepreneur. Like some of them may, like very small percentage, but maybe like 10, 20% or something are going to be like, oh, yeah, that sounds fantastic. I don't want to have a job at a fish and chip shop or McDonald's or whatever, right? Usually they're kids that have been through like the employment thing and they hate it and they're looking to do their own thing. Okay. But prior to that, they haven't experienced the pain of working for somebody else and hating life, So, and some kids might just, what they really want more than being an entrepreneur is they want the money and they want the things that being an entrepreneur can give them, right? Okay. So, for example, if the kids want the Lego or they want the new device or they want the new whatever, that's the thing they want.
Yeah.
How they get it is with the entrepreneur. So you need to lead with that. So let's say like most kids are going to have something they really want, whatever it is. Okay. That is probably a bit too expensive for the mum or dad to buy unless it's their birthday. And even then it might be a stretch, right?
Yep. What
is cool is, getting the kids to be able to go out and make enough money to get that thing. Right. Now that's the thing they really want. So we always lead, we call it like big goals, small goals. So you want to start with some smaller goals, targets that they can easily hit, things that are worth a couple of $100, something like that. Okay. And then once they hit that one, then set them a bigger one, right? So we've had kids, buy their first cars, or, some of the kids in the program have like bought a house at 18, so they moved out of home into their own house, for example.
Wow.
That's a bigger goal, right?
Hell yeah. Owning a house at 18. Hell yeah. It's a good goal.
Yeah. Had a couple of kids do that through their business, right? Which is fantastic. So, so I think that's like a bigger goal, but you're not going to realize that straight away. So having a small goal. And the thing is, like, the bigger question to that we get asked is, how do I know my kids will stay motivated to do it? Right. Like I can't get my kids to be motivated to do anything. Right. And on the flip side is, well, if they're doing something they're enjoying, they're making money and they're being rewarded for it, they're not going to have a problem doing it, right? So, for example, when was the last time most parents asked their kids to play Minecraft or hang out with their friends or, any of that? Like the kids, or go on social media, the kids naturally want to do that. So what we want to do is we want to create an environment where the kids naturally want to make more money. They're being rewarded for it, for going out there and doing it. And I think that's really, like, does that answer your question? Like, how do you get them motivated?
Yeah.
The other one that's cool is with kids, like families with families with lots of kids. So, for example, they'll have like 3 or 4 kids or 5 kids or something, and one of the kids is like keen to make money and entrepreneurial, right? The other kid's like, I can't bother with that. That's dumb. What we find is when the first kid goes out there and makes a whole bunch of money and is buying all the things, all the other kids, all the other siblings are like, well, I'm smarter than that guy. He's obviously, like, why is he getting all of that thing? And you probably heard it if you've got kids, so that's not fair, right? So they have that whole, like, why are they getting them, we're not? And then what happens is they'll go out and start doing their own business thing. I've seen it over and over and over again, where all you need is one kid to take interest and hit it out the park a little bit. And the rest of the whole family, all of a sudden, all the family have their own businesses. They're making money, and the culture's set within the family. So, yeah, so it works. It works quite well. So,
Love it. Good answer. Awesome. Well, there's a couple of questions I always like to finish up with, Ben. The first one is around mentors. Now, you're obviously a mentor, both for plenty of kids in business out there, also adults as well. I'm curious to hear who your biggest mentors have been. And if you could answer this in a few different ways, if you could give us a paid mentor, someone that you've paid money to and you've done their course or their coaching program or whatever it is, an unpaid mentor, someone that you've never paid, but you follow them on social media, you listen to their podcast, whatever it may be, and a book that had the biggest impact on your business. So mentors, paid, unpaid, and book.
okay. I'll start with mentors paid. So probably the best, like, and these are in no specific order, by the way. So when one thing, if I want to learn how to do something, I always pay someone who's figured out how to do it better than me, and go from there. And my first experience with that was in the property market. Like, we got right into property investing, and I know it's got nothing to do with this side, but the results team, so Steve McKnight, and then like the results team here
Oh yeah,
in
I think I've read
Australia.
one of his, yeah, I think I've read one of his
Yeah.
books.
So the
It's
results
really
guys are
amazing.
like a spin-off from that, and they're amazing. They like literally like changed the way that I looked at the world, and also like real estate and investing and things like that. So if you're anyway looking at property investing, those guys are amazing. In the terms of like business mentors, like Matt and Liz Rudd were kind of my first like online side of things. They were really cool in Queensland. And then we went from there to work with Andrew and Daryl Grant.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I can't recommend Andrew and Daryl Grant highly enough. I've not only paid their courses, but bought all their stuff, but also was business partners with them as well eventually. So that was pretty cool.
Is she, just so I can, because I think I know, she's worked with Kerry Fitzgibbon before? Is
Yeah.
that
So
right? Yeah.
Carrie, yeah, Carrie's another one. So Carrie's a good friend of mine.
Gotcha.
If you're looking at Facebook Messenger stuff, she's an all-star. Um, yeah. So I mean, Darren Stevens is fantastic as well. So he's pretty cool. If you're looking at, like, they're all paid mentors. I could probably go on and on and on. But they're probably some great people to, if they've got stuff going on, go check it out. So.
Awesome. Want to give us any unpaid or people to follow, or is that also included in those
No,
there?
no. So I mean, you follow all those guys, but in terms of like unpaid, so Grant Cardone, really like his stuff, and the way that, especially what he does with his kids. Like, if you're looking at like, his kids sort of have their own social followings and stuff like that, and they've got like a 10x kids thing now, which is quite good. So I sort of align with a lot of that. A lot of people, whether you like Grant or not, some of his content's pretty cool. His books are amazing. And then unpaid, obviously you got Gary Vee, but he's not very like child appropriate in my
Yeah.
in my universe.
Yeah.
So they're probably two, like, it's funny because most of the people that I like, I've bought stuff from. I haven't bought anything from Grant other than his books. I keep meaning to go to like 10x GrowthCon or whatever, but I haven't made it yet. So the non-paid things a bit tricky for me because I usually end up buying stuff of people I like. So
That's
um,
often the case. That's right.
yeah,
You gave
yeah.
us some good ones there. All right. What's book or books?
Book or books? For kids, to be perfectly honest, I don't think you can go past Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
I think there's even a Rich Dad Poor Dad for kids. I'd check that one out. We have a whole book club around different things for kids. The movie, oh, what's that movie called? It'll come to me in a second. But just even books like, Who Moved My Cheese, or what's another one we do with the kids? The Richest Man in Babylon. Like, I
Yeah.
think every young person should read that one. There's
It's
there's
funny. These are good. I think these are also good old people books, Like
yeah,
I'm reading
yeah,
these and I'm like, this is what I read in my 20s.
yeah, nah, for sure. So let me have a look what else we got up there. So I think those are probably like two or three you could get started with. Um, but I mean, other than that, like adult books, like I'm a big fan of like the Atlas Shrugged side of things. So I can definitely, that's probably one of my favorite books. So yeah, it depends on like what topic you want to go with on books. So
Yes, agree. All right. Well, Ben, there's going to be a lot of people listening to this, watching this, that are like, all right, this guy is cool. I want to follow him, whether it's for his kid stuff or his YouTube stuff or his gold mining stuff. Best place to follow you, or best social media platforms? Where do we go?
yeah, I mean, I'm on all of them, but probably LinkedIn is the one that I focus the most on. We like, put some pretty cool content out there, so feel free to check that on out. If you wanted to do any of the youth in business stuff, I mean, you can just type in youth in business to Google. That or has its own socials as well, like just for that. And there'll be updates on training and like what some of the kids are doing. If you wanted to follow like what some of the successful kids stories are and all of that, that's all in there. So yeah, even just go to the website like youthinbusiness.com. If you're chasing, we have some free training. You can check that out. If you're looking for any of the YouTube stuff, then Titan Marketer is the company that we do there. So you just Google up Titan Marketer. You can check that out there. Again, all the links are on my LinkedIn profile. My name is Ben Jones, so there are a few Ben Joneses out there. I'll just FYI that. So
I'll get the links and put them in the show notes too.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, other than that, that's complete prospecting. But if you're in Western Australia and you're into looking at helping like hiring detectives or wanting gold, then you can do that. But really, like more on a global side of things, then yeah, it's more going to be like youth in business or Titan Marketer. So
Awesome. All right. Well, Ben, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover for today. Is there anything I should have asked you but forgot to, or anything you want to finish us off with?
yeah, I guess just one thing, just on the youth in business side, and this is kind of I probably should have mentioned it earlier, but I guess the whole point to the youth in business is teaching kids what we call the skill set of an entrepreneur, right? And that's what we want them to learn. So learn, like I said, riding the bike before, like getting out there and riding. And I guess the big thing there is if they learn the skill set of an entrepreneur, they'll never be hungry and they'll always be able to provide for themselves. They'll never be entitled, right? And so for me, like, what is that? How do you quantify it? And the way I explain it is, I was like, look, imagine if like Richard Branson or Elon Musk or like, Jeff Bezos or any of those big names went bankrupt, lost everything tomorrow. How long would it be before they were a millionaire again?
A year, maybe two.
2, yeah, yep. So not very long, right? And
Mm.
the reason for that is they have what we would call the skill set of an entrepreneur. They're able to turn their ideas into money. Okay. So not buy a business and manage it. They can literally say, I have an idea. I want to turn it into money, and away they go. I mean, Henry Ford was taken to court in the day, and his family was going to take all his money off him. And he literally said, they can have it all. It won't help them. But in 3 years, I'll come back double what I have now and better. And why?
Love
It's
that.
because he literally had that skill set of an entrepreneur, right? So that's what we want to teach kids how to do, is turn their ideas into money, and then they'll never have to enter the rat race. They can literally get out before before they've even had to enter, and really live life on their terms. So that's the whole goal behind youth in business on a greater sense. So
Love it. Awesome. All right, Ben, thank you for your time.
cool. Thanks, mate.